Hi, and welcome to another episode of Kentakis. My name is Michael Yon, and this episode is the physical vibration and spirit vibration. So, welcome, Kentakis, and my first question is, what is the Earth's vibration?
Well, a lot of people, and I'm not putting them down, but a lot of people wouldn't understand that actual question. In truth, the Earth's vibration is what we as physical human beings exist within. Science has given it the name or the term third dimension or a third vibration, which means it vibrates at a particular frequency so we can exist within this vibration. But we can't exist in, say, the fourth dimension because it's different to our earthly vibration. That's the best way of putting it.
Right, then what is the spirit world's vibration?
Well, the spirit world, now that's an interesting place. The fourth dimension has many, how would you say, layers. Let's use the old saying like an onion, from that movie called, what's his name?
Shrek.
Shrek, that's it. He uses that term. But it's like an onion. When you have the outer crust, let's say you have the fourth dimension, that's what that vibration is vibrating at. It might be like 76,000 cycles per second. Earth might be, say, 48,000 cycles per second. You take a layer of that onion off, and what you've got is another vibration. It's similar, but it's going down in vibration, getting less and less and less. And when you get right down to, say, a vibration called the astral world, that's the really low vibration. It might be vibrating at, say, 16,000 cycles per second.
I
So,
see.
so the spirit world is fourth dimensional.
Right, so you've mentioned the levels within the spirit world. Can you explain it some more?
Well, as we just said, the interesting factor is, say you leave your body at night. Everybody astral projects, or they call it spirit projects. When you project out of your physical body when you go to sleep, depending on the level of your own awareness, you will go into spirit world at a particular vibration because that's what you understand. And you may vibrate and you may be able to do certain things, but that's it. You don't have the awareness to go beyond it. It's only when the human physical body, which is the human brain, goes beyond their level of understanding in this moment, can they raise their own consciousness.
I see. And are there different levels of vibrations within the Earth's vibrations?
Absolutely. Now, if we look at, say, let's look at, say, people on Earth. We have 7 billion people roughly on this planet. And we have 7.7 different thoughts of those people on this planet. Everyone thinks at a different level. Some think at a very low level, which I would class and is known as the first dimension. Then you've got people who think at a little bit higher, which is the second dimension. Then you've got the present moment, which is here and now, as people think, which is the third dimension. There are a lot of people who really truly believe that we're all going to just suddenly pop into what is called the fourth dimension and be beings of light with higher consciousness and all that. That is 100% not true. 100%. The amount of karma that is on this planet needs to be resolved by every single individual. And all we're doing at the moment in this third dimensional vibration is spinning the wheel of karma. And we just keep reincarnating over and over and over again, and nothing really changes.
Right. Can you explain why there are so many different levels on Earth?
Well, everyone learns at a different rate. It depends on your father, your mother, grandparents, how they think in their own thought consciousness, what they are capable of accepting or not accepting or judgmental, because they fear. They fear change, and that's the hardest part for anyone to grow consciously. The different levels of consciousness has been set up so we each grow in our own space and time. Now, you might say to your neighbor, "Did you see that star last night? It was moving around the entire sky. It must have been a UFO." And the guy might say to you, "You're wacko, mate. There's no such thing." He's at a vibration, more likely fear, because he can't accept that. He can't accept that there could be life forms far beyond this world. He lives in a thought consciousness, but he can't step beyond it. And that's one of the biggest problems. And that's why there are different levels of understanding on Earth. And as we all grow, we grow in those different levels of consciousness. And eventually we advance beyond that.
I see. So how does one's consciousness grow within different levels on Earth?
It all depends on your thoughts, how you think, what you understand. If you think a certain way and you don't believe anything that's beyond your comprehension and you never want to, then you'll stay at a certain level of understanding and you won't go beyond it. That's one of the biggest problems. The only way to grow consciously is to change your thought patterns by letting go of your old. If you let go of the old, you also let go of your fears. If you let go of your fears, you start to become self-aware. And by becoming self-aware, you start to grow consciously beyond what you are in this present moment.
Wow. Is that the same with the spirit world, or is it different?
Well, it's pretty well the same. It's a little bit, how would you say, a little bit different when it comes to how we grow consciously as a physical being. Because what we have in our physical world is objects, books, ideas, buildings that we've created, ships that we've created. It's in spirit world, these things don't actually exist or aren't manifested in the same manner. If we don't have a good consciousness in our physical world as a being, we can't take that consciousness, if it's not advanced or is advanced, into spirit world and try to grow consciously because we don't have the awareness. Yet, if a physical person had a far broader understanding, like an open mind, the spirit that goes into spirit world will also have an open mind. And that's how we grow consciously.
Kentakis, how come we as a human species don't recognize that another vibration, the fourth dimension, actually exists alongside our physical world? And has it always been like that, or has it just developed over the last few years?
To be really honest, Michael, I would have to say it's been developing like that for a very, very long time. And it has got to do with karma. It has got to do with, how would you say, the very negative aspects of certain humans that have evolved from lifetime to lifetime to lifetime. And the way they think is very different to the way we think. And there is a mixture that has affected them in a way where they have become very powerful in money and, say, business. And they have now set a plan in action to change everything about us as a physical being. And the way that question is, the reason people do not recognize, say, the spirit vibration or the fourth dimension and how it exists basically alongside our physical world is because they don't teach that in schools, and they never have. And the only way you can find that out if you go along, say, to a meditation class who actually teaches that, Or you buy a book on the astral vibration and you read it, and suddenly you say, oh my God, this world that this person's talking about is an astral world or a spirit world. I didn't know anything about that. Then the question comes, well, has it always been like that? Well, in a way, yes, it has. And the reason is to keep us so dumbed out that we don't grow consciously, to become self-aware. When we become self-aware, we then look at those people who have created this situation and we don't listen to them anymore. And they have no more power over us. And that's actually the truth.
So what has caused this situation?
Okay. Now, this is an interesting factor. I'm going to paint you a very quick picture. And it's going to sound negative, but it's the reality of truth to what is happening on our earth right now. There is an organization called WHO, which is World Health Organization. It's a company. It's not a government. It's simply a company that has been registered and become a business. Now, the funny thing is, they communicate with all the governments around the world, over 169 of them. They also control them. These governments, listen to everything they say. Why? Because they don't want humanity to become self-aware as individuals, because that means they have power. And you put all that power together as a species, we are unstoppable. So what they're doing is they're using reverse psychology, they're using brainwashing, just like Hitler did in the Second World War. He used reverse psychology. He used brainwashing. He brainwashed over 1 million children. And that's what the World Health Organization is doing right now. Now, the funny thing is, they're doing it in a way that is so subtle. And every government is putting it into action. So whatever these people say, they do. So we are being run by the WHO, World Health Organization, which is a company. And the funny thing about this, our present government in 1974 registered the Australian government as a company. That was Bob Hawke, the Prime Minister at the time. When something is run as a company, it can't govern the people that elected them because it's not legal, but no one is looking at that. So they are a fraudulent company. They were meant to do that because back then they were asked to. So in time to come, they could instill the greatest weapon. It's called the New World Order, where they totally dominate, control in every way the entire race of humanity. That's why all of that is caused to this situation.
Wow, that's deep. I want to just go back. How come the largest part of the population doesn't know about spirit world?
One of the things is you mentioned you walk down the street and say you just start talking to someone.
Yeah.
And you say to them, yeah, I had the most strangest experience last night. I came out of my body, and they look at you really strange. You came out of your body? Yes, I projected out of my body and I went into spirit world and I saw all these situations going on. And they said, well, I don't know what you're talking about. I've never heard of a spirit world, like I have no idea what you're talking about. I got to go. That's the reaction you will normally get. The reason the population, percentage-wise, probably at least 65 to 68% of the human race has never really got involved in that type of knowledge about spirit world. And that's the sad part, because it's ignorance on their behalf. But if you go to school, Michael, and you don't learn about these things that have possibilities, how are you ever going to find out?
Mm.
And also, the way the world's run, we are so sped up to keep us busy, it keeps us ignorant.
And even though there's a lot of religion all around the world, the religion isn't really teaching spirit world.
No, they're not. They're only teaching what they're told to teach. If people knew the truth about religion and who's behind it, they would probably, many of them would have heart attacks to know the actual truth. Who runs religion? And if people knew what's behind the Vatican and the past, just go to my website at etcconsciousness.com and go to the page where it's got spirit in the Vatican and just read about what Giovanni actually said to me and told me when he lived in the 18th century. He told me the truth, what actually occurred there and what they were doing. And they're still doing the same today. In fact, at least 50% worse.
Wow. It's actually, this is a good point to note that if you do go there, find there's a photo that is just probably the best photo that I've ever seen of a long distance shot of that your daughter took of this spirit.
That's right.
Just a great photo of a spirit, an old, withered, aged spirit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, very, very sad what actually happened to him. He had a very hard upbringing. He was a very young man, well, actually a young boy. And what actually happened to him, he was raped repeatedly by these pathetic pedophiles that live within the walls, what they call God.
So just going back, Kentakis, how does the human spirit enter the spirit world? And when does that happen?
Well, that's the interesting factor, Michael. There are people who do a lot of astral projection today in our society worldwide because they know about it. It's only probably in the last, say, 30 years that self-awareness has really grown. So people are curious. But every human, doesn't matter who you are, whether you're a baby, whether you're 99 years of age, when you lay down and go to sleep, your spirit, that is the essence of your life, that is connected directly to your soul, spiritually projects out of your physical body and can enter into the fourth dimension, which is spirit world. When it enters into that spirit world, depending on its awareness and its understanding, it can do many things. It can experience whatever you did through the day, whether it's positive or whether it's negative. And sometimes it can be a good thing, sometimes it can be a bad thing. But that's how it happens. But every single human has a spirit. But if your spirit went out of your body and the cord that's connected to your human body and to your spirit suddenly vaporized, disconnected, your body would be dead. The spirit would be lifeless when it comes to a human body. It'd have no more, so how would you say, awareness. It would enter spirit world and be there for as long as it's meant to be there and eventually go through the light.
Hey, Kentakis, you talk a lot about self-awareness in consciousness. Why is that?
Well, that is the beginning, I think, for every single human being to become self-aware. Self-aware, not just physically, Michael, self-aware of your surroundings. When you become self-aware, your thought consciousness changes. You start to think deeper. You start to ask yourself more questions. And you start to realize that there is something greater about you and within you that you want to discover. You start seeking by reading books, by going to priests and asking them questions if you're religious. You're trying to find out more. You start looking at the Eastern philosophy. What is it about me? I mean, I'm physical, but what is it about me? I'm having these most unusual dreams. They're reality. Every dream is a reality in a different level of understanding. It depends where you are at in your own consciousness. That is the reason. Self-awareness in consciousness is vital for your growth as a being.
Wow. And is consciousness thought consciousness? And if so, how does it help in human evolution?
Well, if you become aware consciously, it's your thoughts that make you conscious. Every thought you have can be, how would you say, an advancement in your own evolution, depending how you think in your own brain. If you think at low levels, then that's all you'll ever be. And that's what you'll pass on to your children through your genetics. But if you start to raise your consciousness, like through meditation, through seeking, through trying to understand something deeper, you are growing as a human being in evolution. And people around you, it's like if you went out into the darkness and there were, say, 10 million souls out there, or 10 million spirits, or 10 million humans just walking aimlessly because they didn't know where the hell they were, they didn't know what was going on. But if someone put a spark of light in that darkness, you would find every single one of those out there would go towards the light, because the light itself is evolution. When you go into the light and you choose the light within yourself to be, you begin to evolve as a human being in your own evolution. And that's a very powerful thing to recognize within oneself.
Wow. Just to go back a little, you mentioned human evolution, first, second, and third human vibrations. Why does that exist? What's its purpose?
Well, as we said before, I'll go with this just a little bit. The first, second, and third dimension only exist in the human vibration, which is planet Earth. What we have to understand about planet Earth, it's just not a planet. It's alive. The planet has an enormous spirit. It has so much life that it literally creates life on this planet. A lot of people haven't come to that understanding yet, but it's the planet that actually creates evolution, because it has a spirit that has infinite knowledge and it's learning as much as humanity. If you're thinking in a certain way, whether it's violence, whether it's perverted sexual stupidity, whether it's, how would you say, cunningness, violence, anger, you're looking and thinking at a first dimensional understanding. Eventually, you will advance into a second dimensional way of thinking. And when you start to grow consciously in your own awareness to a point, you begin to start to vibrate to a new vibration, which is third dimensional. That's where all humans need to be. When you're vibrating in a third dimensional vibration, you have raised your consciousness, all of humanity, to a particular vibration. And that's how we can go beyond the third dimension. And eventually, we won't need a human body. We will literally vibrate beyond the cellular cells that form your human body. And we will vibrate into a higher dimension, which is known as the fourth dimension. Where, how would you say, when we do that, Michael, we can literally create anything into physical or spiritual manifestation just by thought consciousness. At the moment, in third dimensional thinking, we create everything physically, and then through the factories, it's created and brought into our reality. We go down the shop, we look, we see a book, we buy it. It's a physical book. We go down and buy a car. It's a physical car. We go down and decide to buy a home. It's a physical home, physical clothes, everything, food. Then, when we go beyond the third human vibration and we're into the fourth vibration, we can create on another level of understanding just by thought consciousness. We utilize what is called living energy, and we can manifest that into either a solid matter or a spiritual matter. It's entirely our choice, and it depends on how we think and how we see things. That's what its purpose is.
Wow, very good. Wow. So here's a twist of a question. Politicians, what level of vibration do they exist on?
First dimensional.
No way. Then
Absolutely.
how do they come to get into power with that level of thinking, and why?
It's called trickery, cunningness, and media advertising. And it's also called manipulation of the public. In other words, they tell you a lot of BS about themselves, and people say, oh, he or she sounds good, let's vote for them. Or what are they promising? Oh, let's vote for them. You tell me. I would love to know the data on this for the last 50 years when it comes to politicians and what they promise us. How many actually do manifest what they said they were going to do? Maybe 30%, if you're lucky. Politicians always have their own agendas, and that's the truth. They get into power, they promise the people all these things, but they don't do it. Now look at the last 3.5 years, what they've done to us. Wow. They are responsible for mass murder, mandates, everything. The laws change, your privacy is disappearing, and they're all controlled by one source, as I mentioned before, the World Health Organization, including the United Nations. People search and discover the truth.
So then are the elite criminals the same, meaning the ones who try to dominate all of humanity?
100%. These elite criminals, which I don't like to call them the elite, I like to call them the perverted criminals, because they have a very perverted agenda. Really, really sick. They want to legalize something that should never be legalized. And they're growing. And they've been planning this for many, many lifetimes. And once they get where they want to go, you can say goodbye to humanity the way it is. And that is 100% honest heart truth. People need to search. They need to listen to those that have the knowledge. Get onto a website called stopworldcontrol.com and search through it. And what you'll discover will be bloody horrifying. But it's worth it to know the truth. By knowing the truth, you can set yourself free.
So why don't third dimensional people try and get into power and to change the world?
Michael, this has been like this for the last 928,000 years. See, when you have evil people, people who have agendas like narcissists, they have a really, how would you say, unethical character. They have no empathy. They have no understanding what love is. And yet they have children. But what they do is they instill the same level of understanding, low, the same level of thinking, low, through their genetics into their children. And it goes on and on and on. In their next life, they do the same. They start to get better at it. They learn how to manipulate the people who are third dimensional. That's the hard part to try and get over. That's why we need to wake up, become personally responsible, and to look around to what our governments are actually doing. I mean, can you imagine a government telling every doctor in Australia, if they advise people not to have the vaccines because they know they're toxic poison, they are literally ridiculed, they are slammed, And also, they're, what do they call it?
Disbarred.
They're disbarred, and they'll never be able to be a doctor again. That's what they're fearful of. That's why the world is in such chaos in their understanding. They get into a point where they say, well, if I don't do this, I won't have a job, and that means I'll have no money, and I won't be able to support my family, but I won't be able to pay my mortgage. Hey, people, if these perverted elite get into power as the New World Order, you won't own anything anyway.
That's an interesting answer, Kentakis. I suppose all evil elite criminals have totally conspired against humanity, so they have complete world control by bribing all governments. Would you say that's true, Kentakis?
I would say that's 100% true. There is nothing else to be really said about that. Unless people wake up to what is going on, these criminal elites will achieve their agenda, and the people of this entire world will suffer. That's for sure. I mean, they're even saying, I mean, I was looking at something yesterday, and this person said apparently on air that they're trying to get down to 1 billion humans. They want to wipe out all the rest, turn them into robots so they can totally dominate them and have the greatest military force in the universe. Now, that's a pretty broad statement, but that's what they would like. They're thinking all at different levels all the time, what they can do and what they can't do. But the evil elite criminals have conspired against humanity 100%. And they're being done by the World Health Organization and the the United Nations. All you have to do is go in and check their data, check their information, their emails, and you'll find what I'm saying is 100% true, just like there are so many people saying the same thing.
So, Kentakis, how then can any individual train their spirit to function within their physical body so there is balance?
Okay. We've mentioned a few things before, just a little bit before this. And see, the spirit wants to learn, right? That's why it's there. But unfortunately, on this planet, we have a very negative energy that has been here for nearly 1 million years. And all the people that have been murdered, it's created, and all the wars, it's created such negative karma that if it's not dealt with in some form or fashion, the negative energy just hangs around, and it hangs around those who have caused the problem, and it affects their entire life. Now, we need, as physical beings, to train our physical essence to higher ways of thinking and understanding and willing to accept more knowledge beyond our say, present understanding. By doing that, we also then, as individuals, we train our spirit, because our spirit is listening in every moment of every breath. And when it enters the spirit world, it learns to function better. So when it comes back into the physical body, it's helping to create balance.
Wow, that's a good way of putting it. So how long would it normally take to find that balance between the body and the spirit?
How long? It depends on the individual, Michael, because we're all, how would you say, thinking at different levels of understanding. And it hasn't helped because our pineal gland has been coated with a substance called fluoride, and it literally prevents us from being, how would you say, spiritual, but it's also prevented us from looking beyond what we already understand, and we need to change that. So the time factor would be very hard to answer. But for a person who has a deeper understanding, I don't mean so much, but has a deeper understanding and searching for the truth, if they discipline themselves, it can take 4 months, 3 months. That's all.
So if the majority accomplished that task in finding that balance, would it change the destiny of humanity in a positive way?
Oh, 100%. Look, I mean, there are hundreds of millions of people waking up all around the world because of one man mainly, and that's David Sorensen from StopWorldControl.com. He has devoted his life now to what these elite criminals have done to humanity. The elite criminals who run the United Kingdom, the United Nations, they are mass murderers for tyranny, terrorism, and conspiracy. And they should be removed immediately. Why isn't our governments doing that? Why is it our governments are listening to these criminals? Makes no sense, Michael.
Yeah. Hey, I believe you were saying in a recent episode about connecting the physical awareness with the spirit awareness. Can you elaborate by explaining how that will change a person in their thinking?
Okay. To do an exercise, this is a simple exercise, and it's worth doing, and it's worth being disciplined in doing it regularly, because it will change the way you think, the way you see things, and your life. If you can just sit up against your bed, for instance, or a lounge, but you've got to have your back fairly straight and have your legs spread apart so you're balanced. Put your hands down on the floor or on your lap, however you feel comfortable, and take 4 deep breaths, one after the other. Hold for about 4 or 5 seconds and just blow that air out. Get rid of all the bad air in your lungs. After you do that, just repeat these words. I understand that I am more than just my physical self. I am a being of light, and I know that the light exists within me. And I also know that I can do anything with the light if I choose it to be. I now place that light so strongly within my physical body that will also enhance my spirit body. So when my spirit goes out of my body in my time of sleep, that awareness will also be with my spirit. So it helps bring the balance of who and what I am. If you say words like that, where you're communicating with your spirit, that is one of the most assuring ways that you can, ignite the body and the spirit.
Wow. Oh, wow. So, and my final question, Kentakis, can you just elaborate on the difference between spirit vibration and astral vibration?
Okay. The spirit vibration vibrates at a much higher frequency than the astral vibration. If you look at the astral world, a lot of people think the astral world is, just a normal vibration where people enter. Well, it's actually not. The astral vibration is the lowest end of that dimension. And who goes there are people like the elite. They're all going to go there, the whole lot. Every single one of them. And that's a lot. They're all going to end up in the astral vibration. And in the lower end of the astral vibration, it's one of the places, Michael, as I explained once before, you do not want to be. There are, how would you say, carcasses floating in the most, what would you call it? In the most horrible blood that has rotted. And
it's hellish. There's many different hellish things. It's hellish, isn't it?
It's hellish, mate. Yeah, it's because you are such a bad person. You literally create your own destiny to be there because you hate yourself so much for what you've created, not just in your own physical life, but everyone else that you cause so much pain. So you can just imagine all these people who are mass murderers in such the most horrible way end up in those vibrations. Some are walking around with like an arm off. Their body is just rotting. They're so lost. They got no conscious awareness whatsoever. And they can be there for 1,000 years, 2,000, 3,000 years if we look at human time. The funny thing is, if you have some form of awareness, some form of forgiveness, you start to develop conscious ethics and you start to grow. And you start to see yourself rising up into different vibrations. And you may enter the very low vibration of spirit vibration for a period of time. And as you grow and you let go of all the nasty things that you've done and all the pain, you start to grow more and more and more. So that's the difference between the astral vibration and the spirit vibration. But there are vibrations in the spirit vibration that I've gone into, and there's some really lovely entities of spirit. You know, like you'll see people walking down the street, going into shopping centres. You'll see people sitting on their verandas, you know, having a cup of tea or a coffee, even a cigarette, or a glass of alcohol, you know, wine. It's because they're not aware of anything else. So they're caught there for that period of time. They haven't gone into the real lower ends. They are just ignorant in their own knowledge.
Especially they're also ignorant of how much time is passing, aren't they?
Well, that's right, because there's no such thing as time. So it's just one of those things, you know, people exist there for a period of moments, and eventually they raise up. Then they suddenly feel enlightened because they've entered the spirit vibration. And from there, the more you become aware, the more you rise up. And it's the same with humans. The more you become aware as a physical being, the more you rise up.
Very good. Well, thank you so much, Kentuckus, for all that you've shared. This concludes another episode. We encourage you to email us at kentuckus@gmail.com if you have suggestions for where we can go, what direction we can go in, or how we can improve what we're doing. Or if you'd like to contact Kentuckus to ask about a personal consultation. Also, if you'd like to know more about his books, go to his website, etcconsciousness.com. We also have a Facebook page, Kentuckus. That's it for now. Thanks so much for listening, and stay tuned for more.